So now we know how to use modules. How do we create custom modules? It's not too hard, but let's take a look. So let's say we have a program where I want to generate a random number and send it back. That's my function. So I'm going to import random, and I'm going to define a function, give random. I won't require any parameters there, but all it's going to do is it's going to say int number equals random dot randint 10 between 10 and 100. And then it's going to return int number. There we go. Okay, so really pretty simple little function here. I'm keeping it as simple as I can so that we can see how this all works. So I've got import random. Now this little function returns a random number between 10 and 100. So when I call that, I'm going to have to print it because it just returns something. I'm going to say give random. And if I call that twice, it should give me two different random numbers. There we go. So now that I have a function that's written and it works in my code, how do I turn this into a module? That part is actually easier than you think. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new Python file. And what I name this file is very important. Why? Because it becomes the name of the module. The name of the file is the name of the module. So I'm going to say custom module, all one word, just like that, .py. Custom module is now one of my files right over here in the same directory as my working file that I'm using right now. So I've got this file that has all my stuff in it, and I've got this file that's custom module.py. All I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to paste it into my custom module. Couple things I want to point out that are happening here. The first thing is, notice I'm getting an error here in my original. Why? Because that function doesn't exist in there right now. The second thing that's happening is random, because it relies on another module, is giving me an error. So first, let's fix this. I don't actually need random over here anymore because I'm not using it there. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it into this one because this is where I'm using random. In my custom module has what's called a dependency. That dependency, not like a alcohol dependency, but like a dependent child, right? This depends on the random module to function. So now this custom module, I'm just going to hit save, and I'm going to come back here. Now, if I want to use that custom module, I'm going to comment these out real quick. If I want to use that custom module, I have to import it. So I'm going to say import custom module. How did it know that that was a module? Did you notice that? When I started typing it, that name appeared right there. The reason it knows is because it's sitting right there in that same directory. So it's going to look for a file in that directory that could be a module. And there it is, import custom module. So now if I print the directory of custom module after I import it, okay, so I don't have any constants defined in that module. But if I scroll all the way over to the very end, look at, I have give random, and look what else I have. I have the random module that is there for me. Now, if I say custom module dot random in my directory, what does it give me? It gives me the whole random module. Why? Because remember, that module, my custom module, is importing the whole random module. So that whole thing is available to it. And then it further gets imported into my test file here. Now, if I go back to this and I say, man, I don't need the whole random module. I'm only using one thing from it. So if I say from random import randint, and I just get rid of that there, watch what happens here when I do this. So I'm, again, printing the directory of custom module. And now when I look over here, I have the function that I created and the one function that I imported. So that's what's happening here. Is this is importing this, which is importing that. So now, if I want to use this, I'm going to have to use dot notation. And now, my program, what I've done here is I've created a module, and now I'm importing it and using it in my program. Works just fine. What are the odds it came up with 40 twice in a row? Is it random? Actually, it's called a pseudo-random, which is sort of like it's a close enough approximation to a random number. It's not actually random. It uses the computer's clock to fake a random number, but most of us would never know the difference. So anyway, so custom module is now this. Here's another interesting thing I can do. Now remember, when I'm importing this, I'm also importing everything that I've imported here. So I can, if I want to, use randint from custom module. Custom module, randint between 1 and 10. And it works just fine, as if it was part of that module. Because I'm importing that, it now becomes part of it. So lots of interesting things happening here. And it could be kind of confusing, except that it's actually pretty simple. This is just a container for a function that I can now use in multiple programs. Nice thing about that is that someday maybe I want to say, oh, you know, it'd be nice in all my programs is if my random number went all the way to 1,000. So I update that in one place. And now everywhere that I'm using that function, it goes all the way to 1,000. Super easy to maintain and update lots of code in lots of places if you're using a smart structure to begin with. So that's the entire point of modules. Here is a big one you need to remember. And this is, by the way, why I've had you name things s1.py, a1.py. Why? Because invariably, somebody will get to the first turtle sandbox where they're using the turtle. And what will they name it? Turtle.py. What does that create? an infinite loop of imports, because in that turtle.py, what are you importing? You're importing turtle. So it tries to import itself, and you get this really weird error, and people are going, I'm sure I copied the code, right? It was just copy and paste. I said, well, what did you name the file? I didn't name it turtle. What are you importing? Turtle. Oh, okay. So if by forcing you to, by asking you to name things A1, A2, etc., the odds of you having a name conflict with something you're importing is almost zero. I won't say completely zero, but very, very small. Just something to remember: file names become modules. So if you have a module or a file in your directory or in your project that's named something similar to something you will want to import, like random or turtle, you're going to have issues at some point down the road. And so always remember, module names are file names.